All right. It's very, very quiet in Arsenal world, and usually that means something is bubbling up. Oop. Welcome to the latest edition of the Daily Gooner podcast here on the Sports Talk Line Network. I am your American host, Raphael, joined by my English cohorts. Right below me on your screen is Ryan. Welcome back, Ryan.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
I am well. And to his left, just in the bruised banana, looking good. Our man Sam. Welcome back, Sam.
Hello, mate. Hope everything is good.
A lot to discuss. Even though, again, the transfer market's kind of gone quiet. Good news on Gabriel Martinelli's injury. Rob Holding signed a contract extension yesterday. We'll talk the pros and cons of that. Obviously, if you've been watching, we did a long interview yesterday with CBS's James Benge. We're going to have a little clip on that today, kind of a teaser for our bigger interview, which we'll post on Thursday. He's going to talk about his thoughts on the William Saliba, how the clubs handle it, what was good about it, what was not so good about it. And we'll get to the rumors, and obviously we'll talk a little bit about Crystal Palace. Gentlemen, Sam, let's begin with, again, I think Arsenal World breathed a collective sigh of relief this morning. The club had not released official word on Gabriel Martinelli's condition. Obviously, everybody saw the video. It was all over social media of him rolling his ankle pre-game or the FA Cup against Newcastle. He did not play in that match. All we had was word from his manager that Gabriel was in tears in the locker room. Of course, that got everybody, the nervous ones among us, and even the not-so-nervous ones among us, really nervous because, again, when he injured himself way back in the spring, he said it was not that big a deal, and then he needed surgery. But again, word today, it was an ankle injury, minor. He's going to miss Thursday's match, but he should be back after then. Good to have him back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with that injury the other day, it was getting the people to fear the worst because it did look quite nasty, and also with that type of twist, it can fracture somebody's ankle. So we're very lucky that it is a very, very minor injury, because ultimately, as soon as Gabriel come back and the introduction of Smith-Rowe, you could see the spark in the team really lift. And it's true what they say. With his energy, it just festers within the squad. It just seemed that everybody had that extra yard of pace back. Everybody was pushing forward. And we was looking forward for the attackers as well. And we didn't let the opposition rest on the ball. And that's down to Martinelli. Now, obviously, Palace is going to be a somewhat tricky challenge, but ultimately, Martinelli back for Monday, big plus for the club.
Do you expect him to start, Sam, or are they just going to rotate him back slowly, given the close call that they had?
I think it depends on how he trains, how he gets in with 1 or 2 sessions. He's very useful to have come off the bench when teams are tiring. I think Reece Nelson didn't do himself any harm against Newcastle, so it'll be interesting to see if he starts against Palace as well. But ultimately, there are options if Martinelli needs to be rotated in.
All right, Ryan, second close call for the club with Martinelli. I mean, this is the first non-contact injury. He was just rolling himself in the pre-match. But we also remember that Man City, that tackle where he and the keeper flew together just outside the box, and we all feared the worst. He went down. He was in a lot of pain. He might have been serious injury. Could have been a serious injury. Thankfully, it wasn't. But again, good to. It seems that luck is kind of turned with this new year for Arsenal.
Who's that for? Sorry.
Oh, that's for you. That's for you. I'm sorry.
I disconnected halfway through that question, so I didn't get what you said. What was it? Sorry.
Oh, I was talking about the fact that it seemed Arsenal's had a real charmed life with Martinelli. He had that he had this rolling ankle that's not serious, but he had that really close call in the City match in the FA Cup where it looked like he might have broken an ankle when the keeper came out and hit him. We were talking about, the non-red card. I don't think there was any card at all, but a lot of concern that he might have suffered a serious injury just coming back. So he's got the proverbial 9 lives, at least we hope, because they need him.
Absolutely, and everyone is just hands together, looking up to the Lord, because somehow Martinelli just doesn't get, he gets hurt. Everyone's like, oh my God, what is going on? And then 2 days later, oh, he's fine. He's going to carry on. He's living a charmed life at the moment. So
Wait a moment. Seems the dreaded technical difficulties have hit us. Okay, well, we'll welcome Ryan. Will be back shortly, but let's talk a little bit about, Sam. Before we hit the glitch, you were talking about the performance against West Ham. We did not get a chance to talk about the FA Cup against Newcastle on the weekend. Some good, some bad, some late dramatics from Emil Smith-Rowe. We talk about him and his growing role with the club. The understudies got a chance. We saw, we saw Pepe get back in. We saw Willian get back in. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Very disappointing.
Yeah, it is very disappointing. I really wish that somebody could put the finger on what's happened with Willian. I know a lot of the Arsenal fan base will say, oh, he's got his 3 years, he's essentially got his retirement money, he doesn't need to try that much, but I don't want to put it down to that. I think that he is severely lacking confidence, and you can see when he was at Chelsea, he's a confidence player. It just seems that he isn't doing the basics right now. And whether that needs to be a case of dropping him completely out of the squad, so be it. I know that it's difficult to take to William because obviously the amount of time that he was at Chelsea for, and he always seemed to put in a half decent performance against us, but he's put one decent performance in for us. With Pepe, I don't think that he had a bad game. I like the way that he was getting into the positions, how he was linking up. His dribbling is also a big asset for him. I think the thing that really let Pepe down in that Newcastle game was his decision making, because he'd get into the pocket of space, but he would look for the shot rather than the pass, because there was a couple of opportunities where he could have slid Auber in and also Saka in, and Saka would have been clear for a shot on goal, so he wouldn't have needed extra time. But he's getting in the right positions. The formation works a lot more for him because you've got in Cedric somebody that will overlap and take that defender away from him, so he is then left isolated with either the defensive midfielder or whoever's come across. And with that, he would tend to, I'd pretty much say he can beat anybody defensively in the Premier League one-on-one. It's just a case of him, again, another player just needing that little bit of confidence to really get the spring back in his step and to really make that right decision in the final third.
All right, Ryan, welcome back. Dreaded technical difficulties struck. We were just going over the Newcastle FA Cup, the disappointment in it. Some good news coming out. Let's move from the squad, from that result, which was still good news, 2-0 win. Rob Holding, and we talked about this. If you follow her up, we've lost him again, but we can bring it back to you, Sam. We put this on our YouTube channel. On our having all kinds of technical difficulties in my brain, on our Twitter account several days ago, that we've gotten wind that Rob Holding was signing an extension. I believe you put it on, got a lot of traffic, that your source turned out to be on the mark. Announced today or yesterday, late yesterday, Rob Holding has signed an extension. This is a topic that we've kind of kicked around, the pros and the cons of it, because he's had such an up and down return from his injury. But I think consensus is this is a smart move in the long term, even in the short term for Arsenal Football Club.
Yeah, by all means, I think it is a smart move. If you would have asked me this question at the beginning of the season, I would probably have gotten rid of him, considering the length of the contract and what we're looking to do with the squad. But credit where credit's due to Rob. He's had a few bad performances in a team that was playing terrible at the time. But since then, and in games, he has been the leader at the back essentially, and he's slotted in well next to Gabriel, next to David Luiz when he's there, and with Pablo Mari as well. He's adaptable with his playing partner. He's on relatively low wages still compared to the majority of the squad, which is good. Again, takes up a homegrown slot, which we severely lack right now. But if you fast forward to the summer, you're probably looking at another right centre back coming in. There was a bit of conjecture online regarding how many centre backs do we need at the club. I feel that Saliba is going to come back in the summer. We get one more in. We're potentially losing Chambers, Mustafi, Socrates, and David Luiz. So Arteta said he wants a core five centre backs. And with that, Rob Holding is a very viable option to be either the starting centre back, although if you look at Premier League club, Champions League club, sorry, is he up to the standard of being a starting centre back? Probably not. But if we were to get Champions League somehow this season, that changes a lot in the centre back situation, and we go out and get a Kouyaté or somebody like that. It's a smart option because you keep retaining homegrown player, you're enhancing his value, and also he's a very able number 2 centre back when the squad's completed.
Well, you bring up an interesting point. Again, this gets into the segment we're going to bring up here, which is, everybody talks about him as probably being the placeholder, assuming William Saliba is going to come back, and all indications are the club is going to bring him back next fall. But how prepared will he be? We had an interview yesterday, and we're going to play a clip for you now with CBS's James Benge, who are talking about the Saliba decision, how the club handled it, and whether the club would be ready, whether he would be ready to step back in and step into that starring role that everybody assumed he would play this year. Clear that wasn't going to be true. It might be getting too far ahead of things to think that might be the case even next fall. Here's our clip from the interview. All right, you just touched on William Saliba, and he's now played 2 games for Nice. And so we've all had a chance to put some playing time, some minutes behind all the presumptions. Oh, it was the biggest mystery. Like, why isn't he playing? Mm-hmm. Are they mishandling? Everybody had an opinion, but nobody had any evidence. Now we've seen 2 games. He's showing us athleticism, but he's also just demonstrated some rough edges to his game. Mm-hmm. So kind of backs up, I think, what the club is being. And you just brought up a very interesting point. This, for all the talk of we've got to put him in, he's the greatest things that France has put out. Probably better than anybody, certainly on this pod, how ruthless this base can be. And were he put into that situation, were he to have made the same mistakes in a Prem match that he made in these 2 games with Nice, see a very different result. What's your assessment on the handling now of William Saliba? Do you think they handle it correctly?
Obviously what they didn't handle correctly was getting him out on loan, and it is a pretty heinous is a bit, well, no, failing to get him, that move to Saint Etienne, and then dithering and not really convincing yourself that any of the Championship teams were the right ones, was pretty bad management from Edu. It's not really kind of good enough to allow your centre back to waste away, and it seems pretty clear he was quite upset by it. And I think from a personal relationship standpoint, that's all you can make all that up, but it's just not a great way to start life. However, I mean, like for me, the talent assessment looks about right. That exactly as you're saying, Raphael, he would have found it really tough going in the Premier League, because I saw the first game, and this kind of chimed with what was coming out of Arsenal, that he was a bit impetuous with his tackling. He went to ground a bit easy. That actually all the raw attributes are there, and it's better to take your time with him and make sure that when he comes in, he can make a really positive impact. And in that first game against Nice, I saw the makings of a great centre back there. Maybe I wanted to, because I think we all would like to see Saliba be a success, but you can certainly see that he ticks the boxes that you would require. I thought Mikel Arteta didn't do himself any favours with the way he publicly handled it. I think there was a reluctance within Arsenal to just really own that mistake and just say, look, we got it wrong. And this is the reason we are not playing him once a month, because we don't think him playing once a month is really very good for his confidence. We don't think it's good for Arsenal and his cohesion, and also we do have these other defenders to play, and they are going to play more regularly. So we need to give them game time. And look, we're planning on sending Saliba out you think the window closed in mid-October. So it was 2.5 months. If you just say, look, in 2.5 months, he's going out on loan. That is the plan. So we're going to use the other squad players instead, and not going to throw him in for a few games and risk him getting an injury. And potentially, it's things like that. Arteta was really good in his first press conference after Saliba went, in terms of saying, I didn't think it was good for him to play 1 week and then not play for another 2-3 weeks. And I don't agree with that assessment, and I would have sort of said, let's play him every single Europa League game, and see what comes of that, and then see where but I can also understand that. I think what people couldn't understand was just leaving him in the reserves, not really explaining clearly what was going on, because there was such great hopes. And I think one of the things that Arteta's not great at is sort of talking about people outside the group and kind of understanding what Arsenal fans are thinking about that. He was not great. They were not great at messaging Saliba, because in the end, it seems like they had the right view of him, that he wasn't quite ready to be thrown in at the deep end. And there's no shame about that, because he's 19 or 20. That's, Virgil van Dijk when he was 19 wasn't even playing for Groningen. It's not a problem, but you allow it to become a problem if you don't kind of control the message.
Just on Saliba again, there's no chance of him being permanently sold, is there? Because I've got him on my shirt and I'd be absolutely devastated.
There are no plans. I never say there's no chance anymore, because I can look a right fool. But there's no plans. Absolutely no. And the plan is to bring him back in pre-season, and they'll see from there. I have a sneaky feeling he's going to kind of step into a bit of a role next season. It might be a smaller one, but I think he'll play a bit next season.
Good stuff.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that segment of our long interview, half-hour long interview with James Benge. You can watch the full interview in its entirety. Thursday, we'll be posting that on Daily Gooner Pod YouTube channel. Look for that. Subscribe to that if you are not. Again, we're going to talk about other topics: Emile Smith-Rowe, Saka's development. Might Sol Campbell be a future member of this organization in the coaching ranks? What about some other players? Lots of surprises. We love having James on, and he always has some interesting and unique things to say. So again, look for that in 48 hours. Gentlemen, Arsenal takes the pitch again. Ryan, got to bring you in. Keep losing you. We need a word in from you today. 2 days, they take the pitch in the Prem again. They've been on a roll, 3 in a row. Now they play Crystal Palace, a team very winnable. I mean, you don't want to say they should win, not with this club, got ahead of ourselves, but very winnable match against Crystal Palace. They only have one win in their last 6 Prem contests. They're having a lot of trouble preventing goals, and suddenly Arsenal had this great ability to score a lot, coming off a 4-0 win at West Brom. What are you looking for when those two teams hook up?
Pace on the wings. I think their fullbacks are very one of their weak points. They lack concentration sometimes. I feel like all of their goals come from wide areas or corner kicks sometimes, and we're pretty good from corner kicks now. So I would look for pace on the wings, creativity on the wings, and try and get whoever's on the wing and in the number 10 position, just get them on the ball as much as possible, just to cause some confusion in their backline.
We have to assume now that what's worked will return. 4-2-3-1. Saka on the right, Aubameyang on the left, Emile Smith-Rowe center, and Lacazette up top. No reason to change that, is there? Staying with you, Ryan.
No, I don't. I wouldn't change anything unless Martinelli isn't going to be playing. But yeah, there's no reason to change it. It's working. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So there we are.
One thing we can look for. I mean, we're not going to have Martinelli, but Sam, this should be the return of one Thomas Partey, and we've been missing him for far too long. It seems like it's easy to forget him, as hard as it is, because he's played so little for this club. I mean, he's been brilliant when he's been there, but it's been weeks since we've seen him. Going to be real exciting to have him together. Who is his partner? Who's the two in your estimation tomorrow when they play? Or I'm sorry, Thursday. I keep thinking it's tomorrow.
I think for me, I'd like to see Xhaka next to him, because if you've got Partey, we've seen that man can hold a midfield on his own. I think Xhaka gives that more commanding presence in the middle as well when he's got the freedom. I wouldn't say freedom to roam, because obviously he lacks getting back. But if he's in a restricted zone, then his passing is a big plus, especially coming from deep. But I suspect it's probably going to be El Neni for his work rate. We saw against Manchester United, Partey and El Neni were 5 yards apart from each other at all times, interchanging in terms of driving forward, pressing. The press was very good in that game. I personally don't think we'll see much of Ceballos come second half of this season, as Mikel potentially starts planning for next season. I don't see Ceballos being here. I think that he will be a bench option only. I'll say this, and he'll probably start on Thursday now, won't he? But yeah, for me, I'd like to see Xhaka next to Partey, but I suspect it'll be El Neni.
All right, Ryan, another possible change. He was on social media, much ballyhoo, I'm back. And that's Gabriel Magalhaes. Had to sit with COVID, but he's back. Now, while he was gone, Pablo Mari acquainted himself very, very well. He and Rob Holding, the new contract man, Rob Holding, had a really good partnership, a lot of clean sheets from that pairing. But now that they have the four, they have Luis, Holding, Gabriel, and Mari. Who do you look to be the partnership, the center back partnership tomorrow? I forget, Thursday. I'm going to smack myself in the face for saying that again.
I think that we've lost Ryan again.
Lost Ryan again. Well, you can take that then. Who's your center back pairing?
Going down Ryan's route, I'd say if it's not broke, don't fix it. But obviously we've got to be wary of Zaha. Mm-hmm. He's obviously everybody knows the pros of Zaha and what he brings. I think if we were to bring in Gabriel, his pace will be a big benefit to counteract Zaha, because with Palace now, they don't tend to put him on the wing. he's either as a second striker or the striker, so that he doesn't have to use his energies in a wider area. So if that is the case, Mari is very good at reading the game, but I just suspect that Palace will try and get him in behind. And for that, I'd want Gabriel, because we've seen him tracking back, and the guy has got speed. And I think if Gabriel roughed Zaha up early doors, you can really see Zaha losing his temper and potentially getting himself sent off, because it's been close in a couple of games where defenders have just been really niggly at him, and he can't stand that. So it'll be interesting, but I think if we're gonna change it, it'll be Mari for Gabriel for Mari. Sorry.
All right, and he's due. I mean, it's no fault of his own that he was out. Simply a COVID exposure. He still is the best center back on this club. I don't think there's much question about that. You brought up the rumor, though. I mean, it seems every transfer window we joke about this. Window opens and Zaha to Arsenal rumors come back. There happened even now, even with Martinelli back, even with Saka emerging. You look at Arsenal's wings and they're stacked right now. They've got numbers, where Reece Nelson can't find playing time. Pepe can't find playing time, and people want to throw 60 million plus pounds on the table and bring Wilfred Zaha in. But we're going to have to endure 90 minutes of speculation, you imagine, about that. So let's get it out of the way. I'm going to lob you the softball and just let you smack it away.
Yeah, for me, Zaha isn't an option. Obviously, there's question marks over Nketiah and Lacazette in the summer, but I just don't think he's the profile Arteta's looking for. If Pepe was to move somewhere for another position, potentially, but in terms of the wings, do you take Saka out for Zaha? I don't think so. Do you take Martinelli out for Zaha? No. It's a pipe dream for a lot of people, and I know that's going to be a very unpopular opinion amongst most, because they'll say, "Oh, it's about depth. It's about depth. We've got depth on the wings already." Obviously, players just need to get past a few niggly injuries and really push on now. But I don't know. I'd like to say never with Zaha, but right now I'm saying it will never happen in the current state.
All right, but let's stay with the transfer rumors, because let's look at more plausible ones. We said at the very top of this program, everything's gone quiet. All the 10 prospects, Buendia's gone quiet, Brandt's gone quiet. Even the outgoings, and Nketiah looked like he might be on his way out. We've heard nothing on that the last 2 or 3 days. 2 ways to do that: nothing's happening, or, as we know, it's kind of trying to prove a negative. But oftentimes with this club, when a move is imminent, everything shuts off. All radio contact, all noise, all communication with the Twitter world, with the social media world, with the newspaper world. It just goes blank. And Arsenal, at least for 48 hours, 72 hours maybe, just blank.
Yeah. It's difficult with transfers, because obviously you hear some things, you hear names that Arsenal aren't even considering, and some people on Twitter will really run with it, and then foreign media may pick it up, and then they'll say this guy's saying this in the English media and try and pass them off as a journalist. It's not the case, and it's more than likely that Arsenal at this moment are really concentrating on the outgoings rather than incomings right now. I think if we get one more out the door, then you can see an explosion in terms of in news, so to speak. But I really, really hope, and I will keep beating this drum, that the midfielder that we're looking for. I really hope, and I firmly believe that it's Sabitzer, because we see his name early doors, then it went quiet, then we see a little teeny bit more, and now it's radio silence. And if there was to be news of a bid next week, then I think where the club currently is right now, they're potentially speaking to intermediaries, sorting out the contract details, sounding out the club. The club are negotiating what they seem to be acceptable. And if that's agreed on this week, then the news will start coming out about the real target that Arsenal are looking at. And I know that there's been a lot of talk around Buendia and official bid to go in next week. So that'll be an interesting one to keep our eye out on.
All right, and since we're in the silly season, let's bat around, or I'll bat around a rumor that these gentlemen brought to my attention this morning. Mundo Deportivo quoting, and I don't know their source, probably an anonymous source, that somehow KSE is panicked in this window and that they somehow promoted Mikel Arteta to be director of football. He now sits over Edu in the Arsenal totem, and that this overburdened their poor manager, who now has to deal with the club and ingoings and outgoings and transfer and everything else. Sounds like a lot of sour grapes. It sounds like some disgruntled former employee at Arsenal. You and I did a long podcast, a plug. If you go to our Daily Gooner pod, there's about a 30-minute video that Sam and I did a few last week about KSE and their structure. And I'll just reiterate in like 1 minute. The way that KSE works, and they have 4 major franchises, 3 in the United States, in the NHL with the Avalanche, and the NBA with the Nuggets, in the NFL with the Rams, and obviously here in the Prem with Arsenal, is that they have a general manager and a manager. So one handles the contracts and the trades, the ingoings and the outgoings, and the other one handles affairs on the field, on the pitch in this case, and they work together. And so I've seen no evidence. I mean, Edu and Arteta are the team. Raul Sanelli left months ago. They shrank it to those two. I've seen nothing to make me believe that that's changed. Again, it just sounds like clickbait. Maybe it's because Arsenal hasn't brought somebody in. This is a rationalization. Oh, it's because Mikel is overwhelmed. I think, as you've said it, the logical explanation is they need to get a player like Mustafi out. They need to get a player like Mesut Ozil out, or maybe those two and maybe more, but they need at least 1 or 2 outgoings in order to have the incoming. And that's what it all comes down to. And that brings us to the player we try to avoid. Sam, I'm going to let you finish. I've talked about KSE. I don't have any belief in that KSE panic rumor. It looks, and we were talking about this before we started the pod, just minutes before, statements from Mesut Ozil's agent, his representative, that by all accounts, it looks like Mesut sometime this week is going to become a member of Fenerbahce. What can we add to that?
Yeah, that's more or less nailed on now. The Turkish press was a bit premature last week in terms of what's going on, but ultimately Mesut is was in Germany. He's since social isolating and quarantining as you need to do. So he's back in the country now. So I suspect once that's done, he'll sit down with his agent, with Arsenal, and Edu, fresh out the termination and the final money of what he's owed, bonus or not included. With this, once that's done, I expect it to be very quick. I think Fenerbahce have literally just got everything sorted in the background. It's just waiting for the agreement between Arsenal and Mesut. I'd be very surprised if Mesut would be here past the end of January. And as I've said for a long time now, that it's time for Mesut to go and depart Arsenal. It's a shame that it's come to an end like this, but ultimately it needs to be done. Just touching on Mesut, midweek I discussed about Mesut's social medias and that being controlled by Charlie Pentonor-Levy, which is the nephew of Daniel Levy. And I'm not being funny in terms of Mesut. That's just, and an Arsenal fan perspective, that's just unforgivable. You don't allow the enemy into your back garden, so to speak. And I suspect the leaks of what's happened at the club are going via that route to be leaked into the Arsenal world and into the media. But ultimately, for me, it's time for Mesut to go. So to take a infamous banner, thanks for the memories, Mesut, but it's time to go.
All right, and then on that bittersweet note, we bring this episode of the Daily Gooner pod to a close. We want to give thanks to James Benge for joining us. Obviously, again, a reminder to all of you that the full interview with James Benge will be posted on our Daily Gooner podcast YouTube channel on Thursday. Look for that. Go over there, watch all of it. Subscribe, hit the subscribe button while you're there. Help us out. Again, we want to thank Ryan, who had to depart via technical difficulties. We hope to have him back full time for all subsequent pods going forward. I want to say thanks to our technical guy Lee for keeping this kind of bumpy airplane ride stable as could be this evening. And of course, I want to say thanks to Sam for his insight. And of course, thanks to all of you for coming along, watching, and leaving your comments and subscribing. We love to take the Arsenal journey with you. Look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday. We'll have some Crystal Palace recap and hopefully some more news about turnover at the club, good turnover at the club. So for Sam and for Ryan, wherever Ryan is, I'm Raphael. I want to bid you a good night.